Well, we lost one of the good ones yesterday. Uh, they called him the world's most wanted hacker. That kind of sounds bad. And he was in the 90s. Um, some people were considering him brilliant. Now, I came across him later in life. Who am I talking about? Let's start off there. Kevin Mitnick is his name. And Kevin in the 90s was broke into more company systems to prove that he could than anyone else. He did it enough times that he ended up on the FBI's most wanted list, which is where the term the world's most wanted hacker came from. And they actually had to bring in a couple other hackers in order to track him down and actually get caught. He did end up going to prison. When he came out, he got offered a job and started on what we in my industry or the IT industry would call a white hacker. He became an advocate for cybersecurity and education and teaching people what to be on the lookout for. And one of his claims, character witnesses often came from former prosecutors and victims. Because you see, for Kevin, hacking was all about proving that he was smart enough to be able to do it. Never stole a dime, never took a dime from these places. I remember one of his quotes was, the credit cards, that information he came across was secondary. He didn't want them. He just wanted to be able to say, hey, I got your stuff. You said I couldn't. I was able to do it. See, because back in the old days of hacking, that's what it was about, was bragging rights, to be able to prove that you were smarter than the other side, which is why they had to bring in hackers in. A funny little aside story on this, how Kevin was able to stay ahead of the FBI. He hacked their phone systems and could ping the cell phones of the agents. So keep in mind, when cell phones came out, what those looked like back in the 90s. They weren't smartphones like they are today. But yeah, Kevin was able to take a look at the cell phone towers and triangulate and know where the agents were, so he was able to stay ahead. Brilliant, if you think of it, but hackers think differently than most people. It's not like, how can I use this to assist my day? It's like, what can I use this for? Where can I get to? What can I do? And as I said, back in those days, it was about being able to prove that you were super smart. Now, I was blessed to actually have been presenting with Kevin at a peer conference down in Nashville. I guess it was about 5 years ago. The night before we were taking the stage, Kevin was going to do a live demo hack, and I was talking about some cybersecurity side and got to kind of play the straight man to Kevin's routine as well. It was a fun time sharing the stage with him. But the night before, we were having a great chat. And it's not often that you get to interact live and in person with a world-renowned hacker, one that's served time in prison, ended up in solitary for a year. That's a story for another day. So as we're talking security, I was like, okay, his security firm, they call it a red team. They did penetration testing. So large entities, government agencies would hire Kevin and his global team of hackers to ethically try to hack them, which means they were looking for the holes to get into systems before the real bad guys showed up to do it. And he made a pretty darn good living at it. So I said, Kevin, you are claiming 100% success rate on these penetration tests. 100%. I said, Kevin, I got to call BS on this a little bit, man. Like, when we've got our layered security and we got our UTM, Universal Threat Management firewalls, which has got intrusion detection and prevention, and the list goes on. All this different tech. I said, you can't tell me that your team's got a 100% success rate against someone that is situated and set up from a security point of view and perspective that's designed to try to keep people out and to detect when something's happening so that we can respond quickly. He said, Scott, slow down. My team, and this was Kevin talking, is when my team comes up against an opponent that has really good security in place. We don't waste our time trying to hack the security. We hack the people. Light bulb moment. And what was he talking about? they'd pick up the phone and they'd call the company they were trying to hack, and hey, this is Johnny from IT security. We noticed something going on and we need a password to log into a system, or whatnot. Because as Kevin pointed out, by human nature, most people are kind of internally wired to try to be helpful, to try to help folks out. So when someone calls and claims they're from authority and they need a hand, they tend to act. So his 100% success rate was not necessarily hacking the systems that were in place per se, but hacking the people to assist them in getting into the systems. That's how he got a 100% success rate. So 5 years ago, this light bulb moment goes off as he and I are having a couple of wobbly pops before the event, and I was like, well, crap. This is true. I can have the best security in the world. I can be providing this to my clients and have it there. But if the bad guys can fool the staff, our client staff, to take some sort of action and basically invite the hackers into the network, I got a problem. How do I work and protect against that? And thanks to Kevin, that's when I started really talking a lot about the need that when we hire a new staff member, we can't just assume that they're cyber smart, right? If a company hires someone, they're probably going to go through their onboarding. They're going to be told about their benefits and pay periods and HR policies and maybe sexual harassment policy and all those other policies. But many businesses don't bother to talk to them about computers, and acceptable use policy, and policies around opening attachments, confirming that it's actually the person that sent it, or picking up the phone and calling it, never transferring money, never going and buying gift cards if the CEO says so until you confirm it. Have a two-factor. I got the email, so now I'm going to call the person direct. All these little things. I mean, it doesn't cost money for some of the safety preventions that can be put in place to prevent hackers from getting in. It's free. It's education. Some common sense things that maybe people just haven't come across or aren't expressing to their clients. And Kevin drove that home, and it's always kind of stayed with me. All right? We can have the best layers of defense. We can build the tallest walls of our castle. We can have the archers and all the lookouts and all the protection we have. The bad guys just have to find a crack in the foundation to get in. And often that crack is our staff. So what are we going to do about it? We got to educate them. But educating is not enough. You've also got to test them, right? You don't take a bath once and assume that you're clean all year long. And from my experience, before coming across this need to do constant training, I would get paid by a company to come in and do an hour presentation on cybersecurity. And I'd leave. And probably for the next 3, 4, 5 weeks, maybe 3 months, people were being vigilant. And then things would fall off, right? It happens. We all go to training and we take it in and maybe we get excited by it and we take action on it, and then it weans over time. So how do you make sure that level stays up? You got to do some testing on it. So it's a loss to the community. Kevin was awesome to work with. He was a great showman, great storyteller. The presentation was amazing. And remember, we were doing it in front of IT peers. We were actually doing it, and he was doing these live demos in front of IT folks. So these are folks that are supposed to already know about IT security. Some of them probably really great computer people, but helping educate our industry around cybersecurity. And it was an honor to be able to have taken the stage with Kevin in Nashville. Thoughts and prayers going out to his wife, Kimberly, and his friends. Devastating loss for our industry and for having such a great spokesperson that was out there that could talk about the dark side and what he'd done and showing people light of what we needed to be doing to be able to protect ourselves, our businesses, and our family. Kevin, you will be missed.